Hello, I'm Briane Nasimok. I'm here in Toronto, Canada. I tell personal stories because I have personal stories that I've lived through. I am a recovering stand-up comedian, which I stopped doing 20 years ago. And then about 9 years ago, I started to embrace storytelling. And I have a monthly show called But That's Another Story. And here's my story. I'm 27 years old. I'm standing behind a plush red velvet curtain. On the other side, there are about 50 middle-aged women hooting and hollering as this macho male model type struts up and down a runway. And I'm standing behind the curtain and thinking to myself, I'm next. And I really shouldn't be here. Welcome to Mr. Thrill of a Lifetime male beauty pageant at a Canadian show which fulfills people and puts them on television. This is not my dream. I really have never thought myself an attractive person, not someone who'd be in a beauty contest, and I think that began from an early age. When I was young, my parents called me husky because I was overweight. But the kids at school didn't use that word, fatso or chubby, and that didn't make me feel too good about myself. Also, you might notice I have a birthmark on the left side of my face. It used to go all the way down to my chin, which made me stand out again, and I got taunting from the kids. I remember coming home when I was 7 years old. I was upset. My mother took me aside and said, "Honey, that's just not a birthmark. It's a beauty mark. And God gave it to you to make you special and different." And I bought it. When I was in my mid-30s, there was a sebaceous cyst that appeared at the bottom of the birthmark, and the surgeon said he could cut off the whole birthmark with just a little scar. And I said, no, no, just remove what's down there. Keep the rest of the birthmark, because it reminded me of my mother and that I was special and different. And standing behind the curtain, I did feel different. I did feel different than most of those other people I was competing against. These were 9 really handsome guys, and me, well, unattractive little me. And as I stood there waiting to go on, I thought, how did I really get here? And it was all due partially to professional wrestling. Let me explain. Between about ages 8 and 13, on Saturdays, I'd go to my grandparents with my mom and dad. We'd have lunch and we'd sit there and we'd watch professional wrestling on television. I learned how to swear in Yiddish as they yelled at the villains. And that love of wrestling continued for years and years into my teens, okay, my 20s. I'm in junior year of high school. It's a January and I'm watching wrestling, and there's an ad for looking for live television audiences. And I love television. I thought, okay. And that next Sunday, I was sitting there with about 80 people waiting for the show to go on. Before a live television event, well, a live to tape, actually, someone would come out doing what's called the warm-up. They'd entertain the audience. They'd tell them what was happening. They'd come in between commercial breaks, and they'd let the audience know to spontaneously applaud. And out comes this man who was husky, with a red beard and red hair. His name was Chris Beard. And he entertained us, and he was amusing, and he was wonderful. At the end of the show, I had enough courage to go over and introduce myself and say, "Hi, I'm Brian. I really liked what you did." He said, "Thank you." I said, "I hope one day when I get older, I'll be able to work in television." And he said, "Why one day?" What do you mean? Chris wrote and did the warm-up for another television show called Nightcap, which was on every Wednesday night at 11:37. And I loved the show. And even though I was supposed to be in bed at 10 o'clock, because I was in high school, when my mother fell asleep, I would sneak downstairs on Wednesdays and watch the show, and I knew it. And he invited me to be his gopher. Go for coffee, go for tea, hang out in the studio on Tuesday during the day, and then in the evening, watch the taping of the show. So every Tuesday after that, until the end of June, that's where I went. I skipped school. I went and I watched him. I went for coffee. I took photos and I learned all about television. And I watched Chris do his warm-up over and over and over again. And about 9 years later, I'm actually working in television, just starting out, doing some comedy writing for this show called In Good Company. And I saw something called pet rocks. Now, I do not know if pet rocks crossed the ocean. So let me explain what they were. In the 80s, there were these little novelty items you could buy at stores, which were called pet rocks. And it was the ideal gift for lazy North Americans. You got a cardboard box that was cut out like a cage, and in there was a rock sitting on some cut up newsprint in case the rock had to do its business. And it was ideal because you had nothing to do really. You didn't have to feed it, you didn't have to walk it, you didn't have to teach it tricks. It just knew how to play dead. And it was a huge fad. And I thought this was really ridiculous. And I wrote this sketch for two Canadians called the Royal Canadian Air Force, who were famous here. And at the end of our taping day, I went over to them and said, if you ever need a warm-up, man, give me a call. And 8 days later, I got the call from Jerry Appleton at Global Television. Hi, is this Briane Nasimok? Yeah, that's me. Yeah. We got your name from the Air Force. One of our warm-up men here can't do the show tonight. I was wondering, are you available? I said, yeah, I'm available. He said, well, could you be here for 6? Sure. Point of fact, he did not ask me if I'd ever done a warm-up, which I'd never done. He just asked me if I was available. And I was. And that afternoon, I went over and over the 15 minutes I knew. And then at 7 o'clock, there I go in front of the 60 people in the audience, and I do the warm-up, and it's wonderful. And I finish it, and it's time to introduce the host, and then after that, they start the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the host of the $128,000 question, Alex Trebek. Now, some of you may not know Alex Trebek's name. He was very famous. He was the host of something called Jeopardy for years and years, but this was before he became famous. And I'm waiting for Alex to come out, but he doesn't come out. The floor director comes over and whispers, oh, one of the cameras is broken. Keep going. Keep going. I've run out of material, all of the thing Chris had done, but I had done some comedy and improv, so I just entertained the audience for another 10 minutes until Alex Trebek comes out. We do the show. I'm hired for the whole season of the show. And then from there, I move around and around. And finally, 3 years later, I am the warm-up man for Thrill of a Lifetime. And as I said, Thrill would have people write in their fondest dreams. Over 100 people wrote in they wanted to play hockey with the greatest hockey player in Canada, Wayne Gretzky. And they made it happen for a woman who played on an ice in a rink in a mall. And one woman, well, she wanted to be a judge for a male beauty pageant. And that's why they created Mr. Thrill of a Lifetime. And I'm scheduled to do the warm-up, but the day before I get a call from producers. Hey, Brian, one of our 10 male guys who are going to be in the show, well, they're not available. We thought, why don't you get in the show? You'll be like comedy relief. I went, sure, because I knew I could be comedy relief. But as it got closer and closer to the time I had to go into the show, I really wanted to win. I wanted to be Mr. Thrill because I wanted to feel that I was attractive. Because I knew I wasn't the kind of the guy that women would go, ooh, like I saw on television. I got up there. The guys were all great. Well, one of them wasn't. He was a very self-centered German flight attendant. Nobody liked him. As we got ready for our formal wear, I knew I'd try to do my best to win. And I did very well in formal wear. I did really well in question and answer. And then for the talent competition, it was me and the German as the two finalists. I did some of my comedy from Yuck Yucks, and that went over very well. He decided to sing country and western tunes, wearing a cowboy hat and cowboy boots and singing in German. It did not go well. And that's why I'm waiting behind this curtain, because I'm the final person to strut their stuff on the runway in the swimsuit competition. I'm thinking, I really want to win. Number 9 comes through the curtain. He wishes me luck, and I'm standing there. And then I hear, ladies and ladies, here's Brian. And the curtains open up to applause, and then all of a sudden, nothing. Why, you ask? Well, I knew I had to wear that skimpy Speedo bathing suit. I didn't want to scare the woman, so I put my red and black velour Pierre Cardin over the swimsuit. And I'm striding up and down the runway, smiling and waving and trying my best to get an audience response, but I don't get any. And I'm not feeling great. And I get back to the curtain and I open up, and a woman yells, "Drop the robe!" And they all yell, "Drop the robe! Drop the robe!" And I drop the robe and they yell, "Put it back!" And I came in ninth. There was a party afterwards, and a lot of people were congratulating the winner. He was a really nice guy. But about 7 or 8 of them came over to me, and they told me they thought I should have won. If they would have been judged, I would have been voted Mr. Thrill of a Lifetime, the most attractive. And I left that evening, not upset that I didn't win, happy that I beat the German, but feeling self-confident once again that I might be an attractive man. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So you were Mr. Thrill of a Lifetime.
I didn't get the title or the belt, but in my mind, I was for at least 9 people, which is better than I thought before.
Uh-huh. So that was actually the name of the TV show, Thrill of a
The show was
Lifetime.
called Thrill of a Lifetime. It ran for about 8 years here in Canada,
Mhm.
and it fulfilled a lot of. Well, one story about it: this woman wanted to be a Playboy model,
Hmm.
and her name is Shannon Tweed, and she became a Playboy model, and that was part of the first show.
Mhm.
2 young girls wanted to. They couldn't fight at home. They wanted to mud wrestle, and they made me the referee. So
Mhm.
it was a quirky, fun show, and it was my stepping stone to become a TV producer, which I did.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I've had an eclectic career here in Canada. That's why I tell personal stories, because I can't memorize other people's stories.
Mhm. Anybody, any thoughts, comments, questions, resonations?
I see one Jewish hand up.
Uh-huh. Rachel, go ahead.
Bravo.
Thank you, Rachel.
That was wonderful. I could listen to as many stories as you want to tell. Anytime you want to tell them.
Well,
Thank you.
Rachel, if we go back online, I'll let you know. There's one really nice story on my website, brianenasimok.com, which is my my favorite story. But it took me years to realize that hopefully, when you tell a personal story, people can relate to it, especially in this one where it comes to beauty, as they say, being in the eye of the beholder. But that self-confidence that you get where you had some self-realization. I mean, that's why I tell personal stories, because I think hopefully they could be relatable.
Absolutely. On so many levels.
Well, Rachel,
Just
I will send you an invite to. Are you on the Facebook?
no.
Oh, okay. Well, Eric will get us it together.
Okay.
Yes, if anyone wants anyone's email ID, just send an email to me and
All
I will
right.
facilitate. The thing is,
Yeah.
Brian, when you talk, we know we're in the hands of a real storyteller, of a real pro.
Oh, I love telling stories. And I thank you for this. This is my third time coming to India now. I mean, it's fabulous. And thank God Lulu is still holding it in, because that's the most important thing in life here in Toronto. Lulu, the poodle.
Hmm.
But yeah, anytime I'll come back and share. I've got a few of them.
Yeah, and I take it you also conduct workshops in
I do. It's funny. I do storytelling. I do improv as well, because I think improv is important for storytellers.
Mhm.
I think to trust your gut. Every time I tell a personal story, it changes a bit.
Mhm.
you know. And that's the thing about personal stories, you can adapt them to the situation. As we wrote, when I had when I wrote about the first story, it's like, okay, I can adapt this more. When I'm doing it in a more comical place, I end with I came in ninth, which gets a good laugh usually from an audience. But in this situation, I tied it more to how it really made me feel. That self-realization that we all need. But that's me. Thanks all of you for staying around for this. I'm sure dinner time and you don't have a dog to walk. Oh, there's a hand up. Hello, hand.
Shraddha, go ahead.
Yes, I absolutely loved the story. It was just the right mix of hilarious, adventurous, suspense, all at one time. Just loved your telling.
Thank you.
Great.
Well, there's a Sid.
And I do have a dog to walk.
Oh, do you?
I do.
What kind?
Indie breed. Her name is Zoya. And let's see if I know how to do this. Switch. There she is.
Oh, there. Hello. Lovely. Lulu's a black poodle who at one point was going to be groomed today, but I went, no, I'm telling a story.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your telling.
Thank you for listening and commenting.
Okay, thank you very much, Brian.
Well,
and
thank you. I'm muting now.